The Wardens. Nobody really knows the true origin of this strange mob, but many Minecraft players have had some terrifying encounters with them since they started appearing in the world. Maybe you're one of the lucky few who have never been jump scared by a Warden suddenly crawling out of the ground, but if you've ever accidentally come across a few skulk shrieker blocks in a deep dark biome, then you'd know exactly what it's like to see one of these cryptic creatures coming right for you. Wardens are nearly unstoppable forces of nature that pose a much bigger challenge to even the most experienced Minecraft player. What sets them apart from many other mobs is their deadly sonic attack that can be used to blast sound waves at an impressive range. But you'd come away with more than just a ringing in your ears if you found yourself caught in the blast. Minecraft players have come up with new ways to overcome Wardens, as they can't be tackled the same way as most creatures found either in the overworld or deep underground. Some have found that if they are able to move quickly enough on their feet, then it is possible to outmaneuver a Warden, but it is a tricky thing to pull off. But where did the Wardens even come from? The word Warden means someone that guards or protects something, usually a prison. But what are these Wardens protecting? How could these strong, scary mobs have come to be? And what could the Wardens really be up to? Well, let's try to uncover the origin of the very first Warden in Minecraft. Unfortunately, it can be hard to find out the true history of the Minecraft world, but there are still some places we can try. Maybe we should start by visiting some villagers, making a few trades with the locals and trying to get friendly. With any luck, we could strike up a conversation with a villager who might be able to point us in the right direction. Okay, maybe not. Failing that, there must be somewhere else we can look. Somewhere there's a record of ancient legends that could tell us the history of Minecraft and where the Wardens came from. Well, there's one other option. We'd have to do a lot of reading. If we spend time searching through enough books, maybe we could come across an old tale that holds all the answers we seek. Ooh, right here, this looks promising. That was quick. It all began long ago, before anyone even knew what a Warden was, or the terror they could bring with them. The overworld was still a scary place, though. There was no doubt about that. Anyone staying outdoors too late would run into zombies, skeletons, and giant spiders. Traveling down into a mine, one might hear the haunting cackles of a witch echoing through the tunnels. Phantoms would shriek from the sky, and any mysterious sound could give a shiver when someone least expected it. Perhaps what was most scary of all was how dangerous everything was. If you ran into a mob and weren't carrying the right weapons and armor to defend yourself, then you were in serious trouble. Unless you sprinted as fast as you could back to safety, you'd be lucky to make it back to your base in one piece. But for anyone who was carrying too much heavy gear on them, running away wasn't an option, and mobs would scurry up to them to make an attack. And the dangers weren't just faced by brave adventurers traveling into caves in search of diamonds and other treasures. No, scary mobs were causing problems all over. Villagers would sometimes be awoken in the middle of the night to the sound of an earth-shaking explosion as a creeper scuttled up to their homes and blew up, leaving entire buildings in a state of disrepair. Or sometimes skeletons and zombies would ransack whole villages, coming from all over to steal emeralds and diamonds. Even to a skeleton, precious gems were worth more than bones and dirt blocks. Now, of course, forging a sword and a set of armor was normally enough to protect from at least most mobs. The stronger the material used, the greater protection weapons and armor offered from more powerful creatures. But sadly, traveling to the mines to gather the necessary materials was risky. If you were brave enough to chance it, then sure, you might come away with some iron or even diamonds to craft yourself some decent armor and weapons. But by heading anywhere unprotected, you had just as much chance of bumping into mobs who would loot you at best and kill you at worst. So one group of villagers got to thinking, surely there was some way of protecting themselves from danger while they went out to gather resources. So they started offering rewards to adventurers if they were to act as bodyguards, or if they'd be brave enough to go and gather materials for repairs and growing crops. Some came and took them up on the offer, but others didn't think it was worth their time. There was one brave soul, however, who possessed a good heart. He not only offered to help defend the villagers from danger, but also agreed to do so without asking for anything in return. Even though they offered him diamonds, emeralds, and his own house in the village, the adventurer declined. He didn't want their rewards, and keeping others safe was reward enough for him. For a time, the villagers could rest easy under the protection of their new friend. He would be their bodyguard, accompanying groups of them as they ventured out to mine for resources and defending them from any nasty mobs they came across. After a while, the village was regularly getting more and more materials to build with, craft with, and trade for emeralds and diamonds. They happened to live near a mine with a surplus of iron within, and this gave the adventurer an idea. He knew the risks in being a bodyguard, a protector of the village, and that he could still easily fall prey to any monster he fought with. So he decided to teach the villagers not to rely solely on one person, and reminded them of the importance of teamwork and strength in numbers. Using all the iron gathered from the mines on their numerous excursions, the village's protector showed the people how to create iron golems. These gentle creatures were much taller, stronger, and more imposing than even the brave adventurer himself, and they could just as easily defend the villagers from mob attacks if their bodyguard was ever not around. And it turned out he was right to plan ahead like that. One fateful day, a party had set out in search of resources, and the adventurer had stayed behind at the village. They'd made enough iron golems now to offer plenty of protection, so he felt like it might be time for him to take a break, maybe even hang up adventuring altogether. He'd still be there if the village needed defending, but maybe he could settle down after spending so much time being their protector, their warden. Suddenly, there came a commotion from nearby. One of the villagers who'd gone off to the mine was rushing back home as fast as he could, clearly terrified. He was alone, without the rest of the party or their iron golem protection. But right behind him, right at his heels, was a swarm of creepers. They had been deep in the mine when the creepers had ambushed them, following them at a distance before sneaking up in an explosive surprise attack. Spotting the panicking villager, the bodyguard leaped into action to protect his charge. He swung his sword left and right, cutting down as many creepers as he could manage. But the adventurer had spent a long time as the village's bodyguard. He wasn't as spry as he used to be. All it took was one stray creeper to sneak up behind him while his back was turned. Then, boom! The villagers were devastated. Their protector, bodyguard, and good friend had perished, all while trying to defend one of their own. Although they still had their many iron golems keeping them protected from dangerous mobs, the villagers couldn't help but feel a little less safe now that their adventurer was gone. Every resident of the village came to bury their fallen hero, with each one of them concerned that the golems wouldn't be enough. If only, they all thought, if only there was some way to bring back their noble defender. And among the grieving villagers, there was nobody taking it harder than the one he saved right before his death. The survivor of the creeper's ambush blamed himself for the adventurer's passing. Although the rest of the village told him it wasn't his fault, he couldn't help but wish for some way to bring him back. Little did the survivor realize, someone would soon come to grant that wish. There had long been stories of an evil witch that lived high on a mountain nearby. She kept to herself mostly, but would normally attack anyone that got too close to her dirt hut. With that in mind, the lone villager asked one of the iron golems to accompany him as he ventured up the mountain. They hiked for hours, climbing higher and higher. When the villager got too tired to keep going, the golem gladly let him ride on its back. After all, it was a lot stronger. But soon even the golems started to tire. They seemed to be no closer to the witch's hideout. In fact, it looked like they were lost. So they were forced to set up camp for the night. When they awoke, the villager and his iron golem companion were startled by the sight of the witch. She said she'd been watching them search for her and asked what they were doing so far from home. The villager explained that his town had lost its bodyguard, and he wanted the witch to use magic to try and return him to life. The sorceress pondered for a moment, then explained it wouldn't be that simple. She could summon his soul, but without a vessel, the adventurer couldn't come back. His old body was already buried, so there weren't many other options. But then the villager made a suggestion. His iron golem. The bodyguard had taught the village how to make them after all. And if his spirit was inhabiting one of them, then he'd be much stronger. Surprisingly, the witch agreed, although the villagers should have realized that was a bad sign. She began performing a ritual that would return the adventurer's soul from the great beyond and tether it to the iron golem. Rain poured from the sky, thunder and lightning cracked from high above, until with a mighty crash, a bright blue light shot down into the golem. For a moment, the big, hulking body lay still. The villager wasn't sure it had worked, but the witch seemed pleased with the results, a little too pleased. Suddenly, the creature lurched to life. It had worked. The adventurer's soul was now inhabiting the big golem body. But there was a problem. The witch had double-crossed the villager. She had placed a curse on the creature, making it blind, only able to move around by following vibrations and sniffing around. The spirit of the brave adventurer had now been trapped inside a new body. He had once been a warden to the village. Now he was jailed in this new form. The very first warden had been born. Frightened by the sight of the monstrous creature, the villager tried to run, only for the witch to attack him. She was eager to see firsthand what her abomination could do, and wanted the lone villager to be the warden's first victim. But something strange happened as she commanded the monster to attack. It attacked the witch. The villager took his chance to flee and made his way back home. He told the other villagers of his mistake, and they instantly prepared for the warden to come and seek out their homes next, to attack them. But curiously, even with all their iron golems at the ready, the villagers saw no sight of this terrifying new creature. The warden had slunk off on its own. Maybe the soul of the old adventurer within it still remembered something about wanting to settle down. Perhaps that's what caused it to wander its way into deep, dark biomes so that it could be at peace. Or maybe that was part of the witch's curse. The adventurer had spent his life as the warden of the village, and now the warden would guard the darkest parts of the overworld. Whether this story is really true is anyone's guess, but we'd wager that it sounds plausible. How else do you explain what the wardens are, or where they came from? Why else would they be called wardens? Maybe the prison they're guarding isn't a cave or any location. What if they are the prisons, keeping spirits trapped in their bodies with no hopes of escape?